capital city into Georgetown. So folks here in Alexandria are looking for their own little stimulus package. Anything to help reinvigorate the economy. And at the end of a market day in March of 1867, strolls a guy named Victor. Now all the young ladies of Alexandria said Victor was young, incredibly handsome. He's perfectly dressed. Slick back black hair. Handlebar moustache. And wads and wads and wads of money. Well, the young ladies of Alexandria all swooned over Victor. He had no trouble getting a date. That is a first date. Because word spread quickly that Victor was easily angered. And he would lash out. He was seen publicly striking young women here on the square. Well, it's a small town, so as you can imagine, he wasn't dating so much pretty quickly. But in April 1867, it's again the end of a market day. There's an attractive young woman here on the square. But see, she was from out of town, so she didn't get that text message about Victor. And sadly, she accepted a date from him. And the following morning, she was found around the corner here at Town Hall in the bushes, dead. She had been savagely beaten and then strangled. Well, it took the police all of about 5 minutes to put two and two together. And Victor was arrested and brought here to Town Hall. Now get this. He's brought before a judge, charged with murder, put on trial, found guilty, sentenced to hang, all in less than 4 hours.
Wow.
Justice was swift. Punishment? Not so much. See, we wouldn't leave the gallows up year-round. You folks from out of town would think we might have a crime problem. So he's hauled to the far end of Market Square. You can see a couple of those arches at the far end that have been re-bricked. That would have been the stockade. And Victor would have looked out at that corner where you were just standing for an entire week looking through the bars as the workmen are rhythmically pounding the nails, building the scaffold. Well, the next market day comes, hanging day. And the newspaper the following afternoon said that nearly 800 townspeople had showed up for Victor's last day on planet Earth. Now he's hauled through a cheering crowd, up 13 steps. They placed the noose around his neck. But before they put the hood over his head and pull the lever, he's asked if he has any last words. I will paraphrase from the newspaper, but I think you will agree with me, Victor didn't think this out so well. He said, "Ladies of Alexandria, I beg you, how can you hang me? I'm good looking, I have money, I have connections. And who are you going to date? These local guys?"
Oh.
The crowd grows stone and silent.
Oh, crap.
He says, "What will you do without me?" And a young lady, back of the crowd, perhaps an earlier victim of Victor's, yells out, "I don't know, Victor, but we're about to find out." Well, they place the hood over his head, but before the executioner can pull the lever and send Victor plummeting to his death, he does eke out 3 more words. "I shall return." Although I reckon it was more like, "I shall." Now his body's cut down. It's put in a pine box, taken out to the old Hunting Creek Cemetery. But see, my friends, that's what happened to the body. Because ever since April 1867, the ghost of Victor still resides here on Market Square. Gentlemen, you'll be fine tonight. But young ladies, when I bring you back from the cemetery and you're waiting for the coach to come back and take you to the hotel, I remind you to beware of the ghost of Victor. Now remember, you'll recognize him. Well-dressed. The mustache.
Okay.
But also remember the rope burn and the broken neck. Now what he tends to do is approach attractive young women. Perhaps invite you for an evening out on the town. An evening of entertainment. I suggest you decline and move quickly towards the lights of the street. Because most encounters that young ladies have had with the ghost of Victor say they'll suddenly feel a push on their back. They'll turn and look and nothing's there. And when they turn back, Victor's eyes glow red. So remember, quickly towards the lights of the street. Do not tarry. Do not hang around. Because here in Alexandria, we all know bad habits die hard. Most of our founding fathers either ate and or stayed here. Somebody noted the sign, George ate here. This was a favorite spot of George and Martha Washington's. Also, James Madison, Abigail Adams, all fantastic guests here. The 2 windows up on the second floor on the right side, that's the east side of the ballroom. That's where Thomas Jefferson's first inaugural ball and banquet was held. Who's on a $20 bill?
I got a
Andrew
Jackson.
Andrew Jackson.
Oh,
Well, Andrew Jackson was inaugurated at the Capitol. But prior to the inauguration, he sent word back home to Tennessee. And he said, anybody and everybody who wants to come to D.C. And after my inauguration, we'll make a huge party at the Executive Mansion, which, of course, now we call the White House. From the idea, because about 2,000 people showed up that day. It had rained, they tracked mud into the White House, they ate all the food, they drank all the drinks, and really, if it wasn't nailed down, free souvenirs. Those that couldn't get in and out through the front door, they were jumping in and out of the windows. It was craziness. There's an Army officer who's concerned for his safety. And he gathers up President Jackson, his family, and his close friends. They hop a boat across the Potomac. And they come back here to Gadsby's to finish celebrating, because this is where he was staying as president-elect. I know, Richard, get to the good stuff. I'm happy to tell you that Gadsby's is the home of Alexandria's most famous ghost. Now, the History Channel's been here, the Sci-Fi Network, and the Travel Channel, all to document the story I will share with you now of the female stranger. Now, the year is 1816. It's a fall evening. There's a mist coming up off the Potomac. And out of the Chesapeake and up the Potomac River comes a cargo ship from the Caribbean. It pulls into the port of Alexandria, which at that time was about 3 blocks from here. No cargo gets off the ship, but one young couple does. Now, they're probably wealthy based on the way that they're dressed. However, the young woman was sickly. So the husband contacts the harbor master. He says, fetch a carriage and have my wife taken to the best place in town, which, of course, was right here at Gadsby's. The carriage would have pulled up right here. He carried her limp body through the front door, up 2 flights of stairs to that lighted window directly above the front door. Now, that's the beginning of a really long hallway, but they didn't go far. You direct your attention to the window directly above this gentleman's head on the 2nd floor. That's room number 8. Now, I'm going to need you to remember room number 8 because it's going to come back later this evening. She's ushered into room number 8 along with her husband, the Dr. Samuel Richards, 2 nurses, and Mrs. Wise, who was an attendant and also the wife of the owner of Gadsby's at that time, were all summoned to care for the young woman. But before they're allowed to enter the room, the husband makes them take a solemn oath that regardless what happens, they'll never reveal the identity of this couple. Now, this side of the building today is a museum. I've seen the guest books from 1816. And the occupants' names for room number 8 in the fall of 1816 have all been blacked out. Now, the 4 people reluctantly take the oath. They enter the room, and sure enough, the young woman is gravely ill. Probably typhoid fever. Sadly, she died upstairs about 2.5 weeks later. Now, her husband is grief-stricken. He ordered an elaborate headstone or a marker for his wife. Now, I take you out to that cemetery tonight, but there are no lights and it's really creepy. But I want you to imagine your dining room table at home, except it's elaborately carved out of marble. And this marble table still sits above her crypt to this day. Engraved on top is this: in memory of a female stranger, whose mortal sufferings terminated here the 14th day of October, 1816. Aged 23 years and 8 months. Placed here by her disconsolate husband, in whose arms she sighed out her last breath of life, and who, under God, did effort to his utmost to soothe the cold ear of death. Well, after the funeral, he came back to Gadsby's. It's a small group of townspeople out front. He says, please, allow me the evening to grieve alone, and in the morning I'll settle accounts. But that night he did a reverse Andrew Jackson. Left Gadsby's, went down to the wharf, hopped a ship, and disappeared, leaving behind the ghost of his bride, the female stranger, who still waits here at Gadsby's for his return. But you see, he's not coming back. No, I mean, really, he's not coming back. That headstone up at St. Paul Cemetery in 1816 was nearly $2,000. Today's money closer to $100,000. It's never paid. Room number 8, never paid. Dr. Richards and his team, never paid. So you see, the deadbeat's not coming back. And the ghost remains behind. Now let's say you want to see the ghost of the female stranger. Well, Your best bet is to come back third week of February up in the ballroom. Y'all, we're at Mount Vernon today. Martha Washington started a tradition a year before she died, which continues to this day. And every year up in that ballroom, there's a celebratory costume ball in honor of George Washington's birthday. And every year since 1817, the spring following the death of the female stranger, there's been sightings or documentation or something hinky going on upstairs all around the female stranger. Now, I'll tell you my favorite story. It's 1943. It's the middle of World War II. There's a young naval officer on leave from the Pacific. He's visiting his family here in town, but a generous town person gave him a costume and a ticket, and he's up in the corner of the ballroom. The musicians are playing up in the loft. Far end, all the beautiful young women are assembled, and he makes eye contact with a gorgeous, striking young woman who he absolutely believed was the ghost of the female stranger. But he got distracted for a moment, and when he turned back, all he saw was the back of her gown leaving the far end of the ballroom. He hurries behind, and then watches as she comes all the way down the hallway into room number 8, and the door slams shut. He still wants to meet her, so he knocks on the door, but there's no answer. He tries the knob. He slowly opens the door, but the young woman has disappeared. And the other thing that's unusual is upstairs in that second floor window, just like here, is a single candle burning inside of a glass hurricane. Well, it begs two questions. One, what happened to the beautiful young woman? And two, who leaves an unattended candle burning in a historic building? The officer came downstairs and alerted the guy at the front desk, who says, with all respect, sir, there are no candles burning upstairs. We've got electricity. But he still followed the officer back upstairs, and again, they open the door, and this time the room is dark. There's no candle burning. But, you see, the candle had never been lit. The wick was still white. Well, the innkeeper figures, he just had a couple beers and he imagined this, and he came back downstairs. But the officer, not to be deterred, reaches forward, he grabs the glass hurricane and burns his hands. So severely he had to be hospitalized that night. Now let's say you can't make it back for the ball. Have dinner here at Gadsby's. The waitstaff will tell you they frequently hear the shuffling of feet and nobody's there. Everybody in town knows this story. People who be in the back of the house, hard at work in the kitchen, will suddenly feel a cold breath on the back of their neck and just quit on the spot. Now I used to stop there until last year. Took a group of kids that were graduating from the Congressional School of Virginia. And one of these young ladies, when she was much younger in Girl Scouts, they had a sleepover up in the ballroom. And that night, well, it was colonial manners, colonial dances, but in between those two windows on the east side of the ballroom is a very large mirror. And the night of their sleepover, it kept fogging up and defogging. Fogging up and defogging, just like a human breath. Now, they were all told that story that night, but nobody believed them. They didn't get it. But as we were walking back from the cemetery at the end of the evening, the young woman, Allison, said, Richard, I didn't believe it then, but I do believe it now. Now, of course, we're never going to know the identity of this couple. But I assure you that that is the story of the female stranger. Now, as we walk around the corner, I want you to keep your eyes peeled on the window of room number 8. You may catch a glimpse of the ghost of the female stranger.